Good morning, or afternoon, evening, wherever you are. How's everyone going today or doing? Good morning. I'm finally getting around to drinking some of my morning smoothie. We're going to be painting these butterflies. Holding all nighter. Oh goodness, you must be tired. Also, we did it. We willed the cooler temperatures in for at least a couple days. It's like 50 degrees here in Colorado. It was 100 earlier this week, so that's quite a difference. Tired but enjoying the cooler morning. Oh, you guys are so nice. Yeah, we're going to be doing these today. If you want to paint along, so we'll be getting started officially in a couple minutes, but if you're new around here, we do live watercolor classes like every other week. And if you want to paint along, I love it when you do. You'll need some paper, some paint, and then you're also going to need something to sketch with and scissors and some scrap paper. We're doing the butterflies today, partially because I'm like stuck on butterflies, but also because I know that video we went through the final part super duper fast because, you know, content can't be too long, and I feel like it'd be better to go through it slower together. Good evening. Where's everybody watching from today? We're going to be getting started in 1 minute. Texas, Oregon, RJ, Illinois, hi Sunny, Belgium, Mississippi, New Mexico. Is ME Minnesota? Georgia, Massachusetts. I got it all around the country. Nice. All right, it is Maine. Oh, it's Maine. Oh, yeah. I haven't had to write state codes in a while, obviously. The UK, Bulgaria, Pennsylvania. You're camping? Nice. North Carolina. Nice. All right, we're going to get started. It's 11 o'clock. My name is Lacey, for those of you who don't know. I'm the artist behind Rebel Unicorn Crafts, and yeah, we do live watercolor classes every other week with each other and paint. And today we're going to be doing butterflies. So these are some of the sample things. You might have seen those in that video from yesterday. We'll be keeping those here. And as I said a minute ago, but I know there are some more people on right now, we're doing this today partially because I can't get butterflies out of my head, but also because I know the end of that video went through the details super duper fast. And we're going to do it in real time together so that you can actually kind of see what I'm trying to achieve, and it might be a little more helpful. Today I'm going to be using those Viva colors, and I'm going to grab, I've got these little postcard things I've been using. I just think they're so cute. I'm actually testing these. I might have the shop soon. But I'm going to start by taping one down, and then I'm probably going to do two today, just so that we can kind of switch between the two and let it kind of do its thing a little bit while we set it off to the side. But I'm going to start by taping it down. Yeah, you can absolutely do this as a beginner. All right, so I'm going to grab one of these little note cards, and let's just start by taping it down. How many beginner watercolorists do we have in the audience today? This is Debbie the Dispenser. I think that's what we've decided to name it. That one got the most votes in the comments. And this is that new tape I'm kind of obsessed with. This is the Nichiban 241. And it smells really good. It must be made out of like wood material. I think it smells like a sauna. My husband smelled it and he says it smells like you know those wicker baskets that are smoked that you put rice in, like Thai sticky rice in? It does kind of smell like that too. You probably don't have to tape this one down. I just like to tape mine down so that it doesn't move around on me. You love Debbie? Got a beginner? Nice. Yes, this should be on YouTube. I need to, if I forget, please remind me to post it there. But yeah, I can definitely post this to YouTube. All right, so we've got this prepped. I'm looking at my screen here and I'm thinking I should bring you guys in a little bit closer. So if anybody is prone to motion sickness, I'm going to move the camera in just a second. And I'm going to move it in 3, 2, and 1. Let's just get you a little bit closer. That'll be a little better. The tape is called Nichiban 241. Your paper won't stay flat even when you tape it. The paper doesn't ever stay completely flat, although the heavier the paper you have, the more it will stay flat. The lighter weight it is, the more rippling you're going to get. And then obviously, depending on how much water you're using, will also make it crinkle or kind of ripple a bit more. We're doing butterflies. We're painting the butterflies together today. First thing I want us to do is grab some scrap paper. I was making some little leaves here the other day, so I'm just going to use the back side of this. And we're going to start. One of the hardest things about making butterflies is making them symmetrical. So this is the little trick to do that. So we're just going to start by drawing kind of a pizza slice shape, something kind of like this. It doesn't need to be perfect. Any sort of triangular-esque shape is going to be fine. And then we're going to redraw that, and we're going to make it slightly larger, and we can add some different angles to it. So maybe this one actually kind of swoops up a little bit. It's about the same size, but a little bit bigger. So there's a comment in here about sizing paper and pre-stretching it. You can do that, and some people really like doing that. I filmed a test about this a while ago, and then I don't remember where I put the footage. I might do another test on this. If it works for you, that's great. I personally don't like to do it because I think it just takes extra time, and then it still warps for me. So I tend to not like it, but I know there are a lot of watercolor artists that do prefer to pre-stretch their pieces. I just find it, I don't know, I'd rather work with slightly wrinkled paper and have less time spent on that. All right, so I'm going to cut these two out. Yes, watercolor class, come and join us. All right, so I've got my two little pieces cut out here. I use, well, classic. I use more classic, but today we're using, and I wouldn't call this classic. I'm going to use these Viva color sheets. You can use whatever watercolors you want for this. I like the ones that kind of push out for this specifically because I think it just makes really beautiful flowy effects, and these are super pigmented, and so it's it kind of reminds me more of butterfly colors. So that's what I'm going to use today, but you can use whatever you have. This is a 140-pound piece of paper. It's a cold press. Okay, so our top one, you could play with which direction you make it. You can also, at this point, if you're looking at this and going, I really don't like the shape, you could cut off pieces of it. But we're going to have our bigger one on top and our smaller one's going to go on the bottom. You can already kind of see the shapes this is going to be for a butterfly. And I usually like to kind of just mark the center just to kind of give myself a little guide. It doesn't need to be exact center. So this isn't a swatch packet. It looks like one. You're totally right in that it looks like one. But these are kind of, they're watercolors, but they remind me more of dyes. And technically there is about the same amount of pigment and dye in one of these as a full half pan. So yeah, I've had this set for almost a year and I'm getting low on some colors. But I paint like every single day. I don't always paint with these, but I paint a lot and there's a ton of color in these. And then I'm going to take the top one and I'm just going to kind of put it right around where that center point is that I made. Obviously, if at this point what you've cut out goes off the page, you're going to want to make it a little bit smaller. So you'll kind of know if your sizes are right at this point when you put your two out here. But I'm going to just trace around this lightly. Okay, got one. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to mirror that on the other side here. Let's see if we can get this to stop changing the focus so much. And trace on that side as well. We've got our top wings. And then you got yours from Indiegogo. Yeah, you can buy the Viva color sheets. I think they have a website. I actually am a reseller of them, so I have them on my site. You can get them on Amazon and a lot of other stores. All right, let's play around with what shape do I think will suit this better, depending on how I flip this. Thinking here, and I'm going to overlap these a little bit, both in the middle as well as on the top, because usually their wings kind of overlap. And the top wing seems to be the one that's on top, so I'm not going to trace this top part. I'm just going to trace the bottom part here. I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing over here. Look at that. We drew a butterfly. Hi, Andrea. The Viva Sheets, I'm trying to remember what their price is. They're around $20. I don't remember their exact price right now. I should know that, but it's been a while since I made that listing on my site. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is if I have any lines to clean up, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to kind of take this eraser and just lightly erase a couple areas. I am planning on using a pen to do my final outlines, so I don't need to worry too much about the pencil lines because I'm going to cover them, but if you hate pencil lines and you're not going to do black outlines, you might want to lighten all of these. I'm going to keep them on so that you guys can kind of see, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to go through here and actually darken some of these so that you guys can see even better. Because I know the camera doesn't always pick these up super well. Okay. I would say this is a more beginner-esque. I mean, you could get real complicated with this and you could take it to the next level, but beginners can absolutely do this one. Oh yeah, let's get suggestions for pens for details. I like to do mine after everything's dry, so it doesn't need to be waterproof. And I actually just like this very normal Papermate Flare felt tip pen. That's what I typically like to use. You could use a Sharpie. Andrea likes Micron. Oh my goodness, I cannot get this to stay focused. I gotta keep this right here, I guess, maybe. Hello, camera, let's focus on the subject. Is it focused now, maybe? I don't know. I'm trying to keep it focused. It's decided to unfocus itself. I just tried to focus it and instead I liked my own video. Oops. Okay, so its focus range is here. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe I'm going to bring it a little bit closer, or is it focused now? Okay, I feel like it's a little more focused. Wow. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is you want to pick the colors that you're going to be using in this. What are we thinking? Should I do, I'm thinking I'll do like a bluish one, and then I'll also do like a yellow and an orange one. Which one do you guys want to start with? The blue or the yellow and orange? You can vote in the comments now. Pilot friction pens. Yeah, okay, somebody tagged me in that, and I'm curious about them. I haven't bought them yet. Oh no, we're gonna have... we're gonna have a lot of votes here. All right, let's do blue like my nails. Just to start, we'll be doing the other one too, so don't worry. All right, so what we're gonna do is for yours, I want you to coat it with water. And you can, if you have a hard time telling where you've placed the water, you can mix up a light version of a color. And I'm gonna actually do that. I'm gonna do a really light wash of blue so you can actually see where I've placed the color. But if you wanna make sure that you've preserved some white space in these to get more contrast, just do just water. So with these, it comes with this little wax mixing area, and I'm actually gonna clean mine off. And to do that, I'm just gonna take a paper towel and dip it in a little water and just wipe it off. It doesn't need to be perfectly clean. I don't need this color to be perfect, but I don't want it to be this green. So I'm just gonna give myself some clean area here. Then I'm gonna open it up, and let's do a little bit of this Persian blue. So I'm gonna put some water in my brush, put it down here, and I'm just gonna get a teeny tiny amount of this because I don't want this to be dark. I just want it to show. This is one of the colors I've used almost all of it, but I just want you guys to be able to see where I'm placing the water. Hello, hello. All right, so I'm just gonna put water all over all of this. Pretend my blue is just water. As a matter of fact, I might lighten this a little bit by just putting some water in my brush. And I'm just gonna, as things get wet, I want this to be equally wet, so I might move backwards and then re-wet certain areas if they dry faster than other areas. Just trying to get this nice and wet. We want a good layer of water here. I'm going to drop in just a little more water just to make sure it stays wet. I'm using a size 12 round brush. And then I'm going to take this peacock blue. This is my favorite blue in here. This is another one I've used a lot of, but I'm going to put some of this in my brush. If you've got a new pack, you're going to want to barely touch this, but mine I have used quite a bit. And I'm just going to touch this in the center here. And you're going to see it's going to already start to kind of explode. I'm going to do a couple different areas where I want that to concentrate. I'm going to put some at the bottom here. And then I want this middle part to go out more. I can touch it here again and just keep kind of tapping. And this will start to kind of explode into there. And if I really want to do a big push, I'm going to put some water in my brush and then just start tapping that water there. I'm going to try to make it a little more even. If it's not, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect because as this sits, it's going to kind of do its own thing. Water amount is still confusing. Yeah, it can be really tricky. I'm also going to hint to some kind of general shapes throughout this. So maybe there's actually kind of a little bit of a line that kind of comes up here. And I'm just going to kind of tap my brush up a line. And I'm trying to kind of mirror what I'm doing on either side to be similar. Let's also kind of see if we can get a dot. This will probably not stay in this spot, but we're going to try to do a little dot there. And then let's vary this color, because this is a pretty color on its own, but I do want to get some color variation. So I'm going to get some of this Persian blue. Let's put some of that at the top. I'm just kind of, this is on wet, and I'm just kind of tapping my brush to deposit the color where I want it to be. Maybe even a little bit right in here. And yeah, I've used way too much of this color. Let's actually just have those touch there. I'm like really running out of that color. You can tell it's one of my favorites. And part of it is because it actually separates out into a little bit of pink, and I think that is so pretty. You know what? I'm going to throw some of this. This is violet. I know it looks gold, but it's actually purple. I'm going to put a little of that on these outside of the wings here, just to get some kind of interesting colors going. And then let's put a little dot here. Yours do not need to look just like mine. If you're like, I want different colors, I want it to be a little different, that's totally fine. Maybe I'm going to put a little bit here too, just to make it a little darker. Okay, so this kind of looks a little goofy right now, but as it dries, some of this is going to kind of bleed into it itself, and it's going to end up covering a lot more of this. And I want to leave mine like this so that I have at least a little separation between the colors. But the last thing I am going to do is I'm going to take some of the black here. And again, this is another color I've used a ton of. But I'm just going to swipe through and just form that body right now. I might have to grab another set of these soon. You can make yours long, you can make yours thinner or fatter, however you want it to be. And then I'm going to make a little head. And then we're going to swipe up for those little antennae. If you want to get a really fine line with your brush, make sure you don't have too much water or color in there, and that will help you. Okay. So this one is pretty much how I wanted it to be for now. It's going to change a lot. I'm going to set it to the side. If anybody needs to take a screenshot, I'm going to give you a second to do that. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. It's the upper left side. There we go. It's connected now. I haven't done a dragonfly. I mean, you could do this similar thing, just change the wing shapes a little bit. All right, give you 3 more seconds if you need to grab a screenshot of this. It's going to change a lot. It'll be kind of interesting to see how much it does change as it sits. And I'm going to move it away, and we're going to do another one. So I'm going to grab my board. I'm going to get another one of these. And I'm going to tape this down as well. Got to grab Debbie. I don't know why sometimes I am just so easily entertained. All right, I'm going to tape this down. So, somebody says their paper dries so fast compared to mine. There's a lot of things that can be happening. different paper, different climates. But one of the big things is when you first get started with watercolor, you're going to kind of start to notice people typically fall into one of two camps. They use too much water, or they don't use enough water when they first get started. And this, I promise, it will come with time. You'll get better. The best way to learn water control is just paint with it and just learn what happens. So if you are kind of at that stage where you're like, it's drying too fast, or oh my gosh, I use so much water that everything just went everywhere, that's totally normal. Totally normal. Let me see. Yes, we're going to be doing some butterflies. I know people kind of pop in and out. So yeah, if you guys need to re-see the reference photos, let me know. I can pop them on the screen real quick. Okay, so we could reuse these shapes if you really like your shapes. I think I want to change mine a little bit. So I'm going to grab my scrap paper again. And I'm going to start with that kind of pizza shape. But this one, I think I want it to be a little more angular in some ways. So my bottom pizza shape might kind of come over. And let's try that as a shape. I can always change it if I need to. Actually, I think I might want it a little bit bigger, so I'm going to bring it up on this side just a little bit. Okay? I can always, that way if I need to cut it down, I can. It's harder to obviously add paper once you've cut it. And then I'm going to do this top one a little bigger. Making it a little bit sharper angles, I suppose. I might cut outside the lines on this one a little bit here. And then I'm going to cut these out. Oh, you just ordered them? Nice. Well, this is a super fun activity to do with them. I couldn't find my normal scissors. These are actually my metal cutting shears. So these are not very good for paper. They're much better on metal. But I couldn't find my normal scissors this morning, so I'm using what I got. These don't need to be perfect. And this one I said I'm going to try to cut out of the lines a little bit just to make it a little bigger. I can always trim some off. All right, let's put these down and see how they look together. Oh, I like that. Okay, good. I like it. I like it. The tape dispenser, I don't know what the tape dispenser is called, but I bought both of these things from St. Louis Art Supply. One of the other things I liked about this tape is there's a ton of tape that actually comes with it. It's really thick, so unlike washi tape that you run out of constantly, I've been using this one a ton, and I think I'm about halfway through it, but again, I mean, I'm taping a lot of stuff down. So I'm going to start, again, kind of generally marking the center spot. It's not exactly the center. If you want to actually kind of, I mean, you can measure, you can be as precise about anything as possible. I just don't tend to be that precise. It takes some of the fun out of it for me, so I just don't. And we could change the angle of these. We could have them overlap more or less depending on how you want them to be. But you're going to place so that center part is on the center-ish. Then we're going to trace around it. And I'm going to be tracing darker so that you guys can see. You might want to trace yours lighter if you're worried about those pencil lines. Why do scissors run away? I swear they have legs. And then we're going to take that same shape and flip it over so that it is mirrored on the other side. And I'm going to slightly overlap it in the center, and then I'm going to trace it. Okay, then we're going to take our bottom shapes. We could put it like this, but I think I liked it like this. I'm going to overlap it in the center. I'm also going to overlap it with the top wing just a little bit. And I'm going to intentionally not trace on the area that goes over the top because I want this to kind of look like it's folded under a little bit. Flip it over and mirror that on the other side. Trace it. We already got a butterfly shape. You can tell this one is a lot more off-center than my other one. Oops, that's okay. Maybe make yours a little more center. Well, we already did start painting, yeah. Just so everyone knows, this is a very welcoming community, and, you know, we try to practice kindness here. So let's try to be nice to me and to everyone. All right, so what we're gonna do is, this one we're gonna do in the yellow and orange, maybe a little reds, and you wanna wet the whole thing again. I will be doing a light wash of kind of a yellow color just so that you guys can see, because I know it's hard to see where I put water down. Kids are stealing the scissors. So we're going to be doing just some fun, bright yellows and reds and oranges. All right, so I kind of wiped this off, this little side panel. You can mix these up in mixing wells, but just for ease, I'm just going to do it here. Let's do yellow. I'm going to do yellow as the general color that I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to put some water in my brush, then grab a little of this yellow. This might have a very slight green tint to it, but I'm going to try to do a really light wash, but just because I put it on top of where that blue was. And we're just going to place this over everything. I'm just doing it with the yellow so that we can actually see where I'm placing the water. I'm going to put a little more water in there. I'm going to run out of this. A little bit more. A little bit more. Got to get this whole area nice and covered. Also going to drop just some more water in here. We want this nice and wet. The wetter it is, the less control you're going to have, the more flowing together you're going to get. The less wet it is, the more things will stay. So if you're like, I just want mine to be a little wet and I just want a little bit of movement, then don't make it quite as wet as I am. So there's a question about watercolor pencils. I'm not their biggest fan. Some people really like them. They are good for sketching because they do disappear, but you can't erase them. So I feel like that kind of, it doesn't do much for me. All right, I'm going to take some of the yellow ochre and I'm just going to start making some general shapes and just stippling my brush in. I am just kind of doing this intuitively, and then just whatever I do on one side, I'm going to roughly do it on the other side. Let's bring that up and over. Like that. Taking some more of that yellow ochre. I'm going to put this down here. And you know, if at this point you're like, I want these to kind of swoop down, you can make some changes as we go here. Maybe these are actually going to swoop down. You don't have to. But if you're feeling like it, do it. Now I'm going to grab some of the oranges. So I'm actually going to go for this vermilion because it's got some nice kind of red tones to it. And my paper is starting to kind of dry, and my paper is also kind of buckling into the center, so this will make this interesting with effects. I'm going to put some of that here. There we go. I put a bunch of water there. And let's put even more so it kind of pushes out a little bit more, and then we can actually kind of drag it around. Remember, all we're really trying to do is get some fun, bright, beautiful colors on here and kind of do the same thing on either side, because butterflies are pretty symmetrical. Give yourself a little leeway to make a couple mistakes though. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to take some of the dusk orange as well. Let's get some more of those bright, beautiful colors on here. Placing those on. You have watercolors, but don't use it with water? What does that mean? What kind of watercolors are they that you don't have to use them with water? Just placing some of these fun colors down. You know, we can even just take some red. I'm going to take some of this crimson. Let's add in some kind of fun colors right in here. And if at any point you're like, wow, that's way too much water in an area, you can tap your brush off to dry it like this. And then you can actually suck up a little bit of that water. It's like this. I like that color, but I think I want a little more variation there. So I think I'm going to drop in some of that crimson into the center. But there was just so much water there. Put a little there. I'm going to go back to that orange, the dusk orange color. Scoop the pigment on. Oh, so are you using tubes, like watercolor tubes? I'm going to put some right here as well, and right here. Maybe a little bit on the tips of the wings too. Okay, I think that's where I'm going to leave that one. Now, does anybody remember what the one looked like, the blue one looked like before we moved it? If anybody needs a screenshot of this, you've got about 5 more seconds. We're going to be adding a ton of details on top of this, so nothing needs to be entirely symmetrical, and with the way things kind of flow together on this, it's going to change a lot. And so one of the beautiful things about watercolor is the way it moves around and the things that you can't control on it. So we could be super duper careful to make sure everything is exactly the same, or we can just kind of let it do its thing, and then we can design some of the final pieces around that. So that's what I'm actually going to be doing. All right, I'm going to take this one and we're going to bring the other one onto the screen. It's going to have changed a lot. Look at how much this has kind of bled into itself. It looks really flat on the screen. On mine, you can actually see still a lot of variation within this. But things have changed, and it is not as symmetrical as it was when we set it over there. And part of that is the way the paper kind of buckles and things like that. It also just is, you know, maybe as I was moving it, I kind of moved some of the water in one direction or another. But it's okay. So what I'm going to do next is we have this here. It's still a little wet. If I wanted to come in and touch up anything, you can at this point. I'm probably just going to leave it as it is. I'm going to actually dry it though. The first thing I'm going to do is actually grab my dryer. I'm going to dry it, and then I'm going to be putting a background around the back, maybe some greens I'm thinking, just to kind of give it some place, I guess. And then I'm also going to do a little, I will then be doing some drawing, but I'm going to have to dry this first. So if anybody is sensitive to noise, I will be using this heat gun to dry mine. If you need to, go ahead and turn down the volume probably for about 30 seconds, starting in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so watercolor lightens as it dries, and you can kind of see that a little bit. I'm also going to bring this a little closer so you can see some of the really beautiful movement this gets. There was a comment that said, is this the wet on wet style? And yes, we did. We dropped wet paint into wet paper. So it just kind of moves around as it wants to. My camera is not picking up as much of the purples. That you can actually really see a lot of the purples in person here. It's not showing it from what I can see, so that's too bad, but they are there. We're doing some layering in a different way than we usually do because I'm going to do wet on dry for the background, and I'm just going to kind of make a mottled background and try to keep a wet edge as I move around this shape so it kind of all flows together. But we did do wet on wet here, but I'm going to keep the paper dry for this outside part. But the reason I dried this before moving on to the background is so that if I touch this area, the background color is not going to bleed into the butterfly. Chartreuse would be beautiful. Ooh, yeah. Let's see. Let me see in this little pack if I have anything that's really bright green. Because, yeah, let's do some, I like that, yellows and really light green. So I think I'm going to use this light green and then maybe some of this chrome yellow. All right, so I'm going to put a decent amount of water in my brush, and let's start with some of this light green. And I'm going to put some of this down, and then I might actually take some water. Let's feather that out a bit. Put a little bit of this yellow in. I'm just going to kind of keep the edge of this wet as I move through the colors as I kind of want them to kind of move and model. And I'm going to just kind of work around the butterfly. In some areas I might touch it, some areas I might not. Oh, I didn't dry that area enough, and that kind of bled in. That's okay because we're going to be adding pin details, and that's going to disguise a lot of those little imperfections. As some of you have really started to notice, yeah, I am like, my theory on art is do it and have fun, and nothing needs to be perfect. Nothing needs to be perfect at all. If perfect is what you like, that's totally fine. You can do perfect. My grandma is an absolute perfectionist. And I love art that is perfect. I mean, it's beautiful, but I do see a lot of times people who focus on it being absolutely perfect, they stop themselves from creating. And my whole goal is to never stop creating again. So every once in a while I do something that I want to be absolutely perfect, but for the most part, I try to lean into accepting what happens and just moving on with it. One of the things about watercolor is like it can be so unforgiving, but depending on how you use it, you can figure out ways to make it more forgiving by adding on details and other layers. Nothing is permanent, nothing needs to be perfect. Just putting some of this yellow kind of over here. And usually when I'm painting backgrounds like this, I will actually move my piece kind of around, like my general process. I'm going to put a little more of this darker color in a couple areas. but just I will kind of spin the piece around so that it's easier for me to work on. So you might want to consider doing something like that. Everybody's trying to be too perfect. Life is imperfect, even butterflies. Okay, so I'm going to set this one to the side for a minute. We're going to move on to the other one. We're going to add a background on that one too. But let's just take a moment. So butterflies are symmetrical. Yes, they are. However, if we look at some of these, you know, they've lived in the world. See how on this one, a chunk of his wing is missing and it's not here? And even when we look at this, depending on how the light is hitting it, it might be, it's darker on this side. I actually do suspect that this butterfly looks exactly the same on both wings if it was hit with the right lighting conditions. But see how much it's darker on this side than this side. Life happens, things change, and even the most symmetrical things in nature are not entirely symmetrical. Like you can even see his body kind of goes over to one side. And this side does look slightly larger than that side. There's a lot of symmetry in these, or even in the details on this wing here. See how this side all connects, but this side kind of breaks apart? It's symmetrical, but it's not perfect. Nature is natural. Perfectly imperfect, I like that too. Yeah, I thought this was kind of interesting. We're going to use these reference photos to kind of take some inspiration for when we add our pen details. But as I was pulling these pictures, I was looking at them and I'm like, they're not as perfect as you would think. And look at that right here. These little parts here are slightly different sizes. That's totally fine. All right, so I'm going to grab our orange one has changed a lot too. Look at that. Oh yeah. I like how that one bled together. Actually a lot more than the other one even so. Again, I'm going to be drying this, so if you are sensitive to noise, this is your warning to take your volume down. And I'm going to turn this on in 3, 2, and 1. Also, I have seen a few of the comments about my nails. Yeah, if anybody would like a little confidence boost, this color is the color I get most complimented on. It's just Sally Hansen, and the color is Royal Hue. So yeah, if you're having a day where you could use a compliment or two, wear this nail color. I used a heat gun. Hair dryer works great too. The heat gun just produces less like type air, so it doesn't blow the water around quite as much. But I don't know. I started using it because I saw a bunch of other people using it too, and yeah, I do think I like it a little better. But if all you have access to is a hair dryer, it'll be totally fine. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. What do we think for the background color on this one? I did really like kind of the purple blues off as the background opposing this one. But what do we think for this one? Blue. Blues and purples. A magenta. Oh, goodness. Oh, yeah. How about we do... Let's do blues, purples, and pinks. Let's get it really just kind of a lot of colors going back there. All right. I do think I'm going to stay away from the peacock blue because this one leans more towards green, and I think it'll be nice to keep this more in a warmer. I know that blue is a cooler color, but if we're going to add in some purples and we're going to add in magenta, I'm going to stay away from this one because it's going to be a little bit cooler. It won't kind of blend together quite as well. So I'm going to be mainly doing this Persian blue, violet, and then this magenta here. And these are some of my favorite colors, so we'll see how much color I can actually get from these. I think before I do my next live with these, I'm going to have to crack open a new pack of these because I have kind of worn out my welcome on this pack here on some of these colors. Oh, we got a Mogi here. She wanted to paint with us. I'm going to go a little bit darker on this one. I am going to kind of add some of the color, and then I usually add a little bit of water, and then I'm going to grab some other color. We're going to go darker. We're going to push this one a little bit more. Go around the edges. If you don't completely touch it, it's okay, because I probably will be drawing outside of the lines a little bit with my marker. Let's get some of that purple. Trying to keep a wet edge so it doesn't dry and I can't see that edge. I'm going to go back into the blue here before I switch over to that purple, or the pink color, sorry. All right, I'm going to grab some of that. Oh, I need to just make sure that stays kind of wet over here. And then let's grab some of this pink magenta color. Just go all the way around here. Backgrounds can be scary. If you're scared of doing this, one, I encourage you to do it. It's okay if it's not perfect. But if you're like, I'm going to ruin it, I'm going to keep it how it is, I understand. I have been there with you. And you don't have to add a background. Oh, I forgot to put the body on this one. That's okay. We're going to add it. We're going to add it with, we'll add it with our pen details. Everything is fine. Let's do some more of that pink here. Need to get a little more of that pigment going there because I want to keep this kind of darker. Oh, I've been neglecting this wet edge over here. Put a little purple. You can see there's not a ton of rhyme or reason about how I'm placing these colors down. I'm just trying to get them down on the page. Kind of just doing it by what feels right where. Let's get that coated. I'm going to smooth any harsh edges with a little more water. Oh, this one looks like such fun tie-dye. Oh, I kind of really like it. I've got a couple areas that I didn't quite touch. I'm just going to kind of tap them. There we go. Oh, I love this one. Okay, now this is going to dry a little bit lighter because watercolor dries lighter, but I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, I'm going to set this one to the side now. Grab that other one. We're going to be moving into detail territory. So here's our other one we already did the background on. I love the vibrancy on this. I like how some of that kind of bled out in different areas. It kind of almost like gives it this blur like it is flying through something. And I'm going to be using this just Papermate Flare pen to add my details on. This is not a waterproof pen, but even waterproof pens you don't want to draw on wet paper because it'll try to shove water up into, if it's like a felt tip type thing. So we do want to, again, give this a good dry before we move on to this. So I'm going to take my heat gun again. If you are sensitive to noise, this is a really good time for you to turn down the volume for about 30 seconds in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Somebody says, what's my secret to art? Ooh, I don't know. Be kind to yourself, enjoy the process, and trust the process. And nothing needs to be perfect. Okay, so usually what I do to start, because it can be kind of intimidating, there's a lot of detail on, or potentially a lot of detail on butterfly leaves, butterfly wings, is in order to kind of narrow it down for myself, usually what I will start to do is by outlining the wings, just to give, and outlining the body, just to give myself kind of a good idea, and it's going to help bring parts of this together. You might outline yours and be like, you know what, I really like it, and I'm done. That's all I wanted to do on that. Or it might make certain areas become more apparent where they are kind of symmetrical and where you want to highlight certain things. So I'm going to start by outlining this whole thing. And I'm going to give him his little body, because some of that bled out. Do butterflies have like real blood, or are they just goo? All right, anyways, so I'm going to add some texture to this too on one side. Kind of show the separation of potential different parts, as well as kind of some shadowing on one side of the body. And then let's just start by outlining. Welcome to unintentional ASMR, if you can hear that noise. And I went a little outside there, so I'm going to probably need to lean into the fact that I did that and try to kind of mimic that on the other side. What I will probably end up doing is coloring some of that in, which is fine because look at how much of a dark border a lot of these butterflies have on certain areas. All right, in order to make this easier on myself, I am going to flip this around and kind of be able to follow this a little bit more. Okay, so on this one, I made it a little more rounded and I went outside. We're just going to kind of try to mimic that. It's not perfect, but it's about similar. Yours is in the ugly stage. Yes, every painting goes through an ugly stage. I think I'm also going to redefine the antennas at this point. Maybe give them a little shape on the end. Okay. All right, so now here comes the tricky thing. So one thing I do know based on the way this looks is, one, I've got some of this kind of bleeding over into here. So here, and then I drew outside the lines here. I think I am going to give myself kind of a nice border on the bottom here. So I'm going to kind of start by defining where I'm going to be blocking in and making this a little darker. Some of this I'm going to take inspiration from the photos, and some of this I'm going to take inspiration from what is happening on my little piece here. Okay, well, you can see we've kind of made some fixes to this a bit. This does come out of the lines here a bit, and it is kind of bugging me, so I think I'm going to actually kind of modify this shape a little bit. To cover that up, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And just like that, it's not bugging me anymore. All right, now I've got a lot of heaviness on the outline here on the top. So I think I want to kind of mirror that onto the top area, and I want to add a little heaviness to the line work on the top too. So let's add a little bit here. Kind of just trying to balance it a little bit, you know? And do the same here. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm losing track of the comments here a little bit. Especially when I have to like sketch, it's harder for me to look. Let me take just a second. Use pens, just got started. Nice. Okay. Pointers with watercolor. Oh, goodness. I did just finish my series, Watercolor Month, and I put them all in a playlist. If you go through that whole list, that whole video thing, you will know a ton about watercolor at the end of it. Okay, the other thing I want to do is, they're typically a little darker towards the bodies, so in some of these, oh, I'm pointing to something off camera. So I think I want to do a little bit of shading and some pattern work kind of in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of feather this out here just to give it a little depth and a little motion. Same thing here. And here. I feel like that just kind of brings it in just a little bit. And then we could make some dots, we can make some different like pattern type things. You know what I'm kind of thinking is I kind of like this type of a look to it. So let's see what we can do here to try to get something similar. So I'm going to start with kind of this elongated tear shape. Now, the tricky part with these is then doing the same thing on the other side. Remember, though, we just looked at those, and even though they are near perfect, they are not exactly the same. Even when we look at these different butterflies. See how there's a little bit of difference in certain areas. Would help if I actually put it in the middle of the screen instead of off the screen, but here we go. You can do the background last. The main thing, if you're using a non-waterproof pen, is you gotta be really careful not to touch it because it will bleed into it. So you just wouldn't want to touch at all in those areas, or at least reduce the amount you do. You can do it in pretty much whatever order you want though. Okay, so the next little shape I'm going to take from this is meet and then edge over here. So it's going to come up and it's going to edge back over there. Okay, come up and edge back. And then you can see there are some little shapes that it kind of fills in. You can make these as complicated as you want, but they don't need to be super duper complicated. This one is actually looking like it's going to be more complicated, so maybe we'll do the other one as a little more simple, which actually will probably work really well with the dark background, keeping the wings a lot lighter and a lot less detailed. My brain always struggles with trying to figure out how to mimic the shape on the other side. Sure, Posca pen, why not? Okay, let's make this, I'm just gonna do kind of a line up here for this side. And a line up here for this side. I'm going to just kind of fill in some of these areas. See how now I'm just going to kind of fit this together like a puzzle piece. And I'm just going to, after I do one on one side, I'm going to flip it over and make sure I do the other on the other side so I don't forget. And then I'm going to actually just kind of come into this area and it makes its own little shape. I'm going to fill it in. Why not? All right, now my brain has to translate it on this side into there. And maybe there's just a couple circles here. You could fill these in, or you can leave them how they are. Now, down on the bottom, we can keep this super simple. Usually there's at least a hint of whatever's happening on the top on the bottom. So maybe we just do one or two of those little shapes down here. I mean, you could even just do little lines. Some of these butterflies just have little lines that come out too. And I actually kind of like it there. I might leave that one like that. You do have another option here. You could take a Posca pen. You could take a white gel pen. I'm trying to find where my white gel pen is. I had it earlier today. I think I put it away thinking, oh, that'll be easier. And guess what? It's not easier. Okay, well, here, I've got this white grease pencil, but you could come in here and you could even add some white details. So if you wanted to highlight certain areas, we can highlight with a little bit of some white on top using a different mixed media. Just like that. Sometimes adding a couple little white areas really helps bring it to life. All right, we're gonna, I'm gonna set this one to the side, and then we're gonna add the details to the other one, but I gotta dry the background first. Okay, yep, need to dry the background. If you are sensitive to noise, I wanna turn down your volume now. And then while I'm drying this, let me know how you're doing on yours in the comments. So 3, 2, 1, and noise. So what I'm painting on is the backside of, like, this was, I think, a notebook of Canson XL. And when I get to the very end of them, I just save the back cardboard piece because it's like nice lightweight and nice and sturdy, so I can tape things to it. You're trusting the process. I love that. All right. So on this one, I forgot to add the body in. So I'm going to start by doing that. And different butterflies, you can see this one has a longer body than the wings, about the same. Some of them have really short, so maybe I'm going to make this one a shorter body shape, and I'm actually going to end it kind of here. So the general body is going to fall kind of in here. I'm going to add a little kind of head part to it. And then I'm going to completely block that in with this. I can come back in and add some of those white details. And then I'm going to bring in these. These little antennae. You can barely see them. I have a problem knowing when to stop with detail. It sadly looks worse and worse. You know, okay, so I have a theory on this. One, I always think when you're doing art, you find out if you have the quote-unquote too much gene. There's nothing wrong with wanting to do too much, but what I've found is leaving things simple seems to work well. Adding a lot of detail works well if you add enough detail. So if you tend to add in too much detail and you're like, I don't know, it just looks kind of busy. You've already added a ton of detail. Maybe just go with even more. Embrace it. Go with it. Even the blue ring matches your nail polish. Yeah, the paintbrush that's on my site is the same one that I used today. Yes, you can always add more, you can't take away. That is a good thing to get into the habit of. You know, one of the things is like this one, I think it could potentially use some more details, but I also kind of like it as it is. And so one thing, if you want to try to reduce the amount you're doing to something, because it's easier, frankly, to not have to add as much stuff, is to just get to a point where you're like, I'm kind of liking this. If you start to feel that, I'm kind of liking this, set it aside. Come back to it in a few minutes. And you'll probably either have better ideas about what to add to it in the future, or you might be like, no, I think that's how it's supposed to be, you know? Go with the flow. All right, I'm going to start by outlining these. Yeah, I've got a website, rebelunicorncrafts.com, and I do sell a few different supplies. And I have a few other resources on there too. I also try to link all the stuff that I put in my videos if it's just something I got from Amazon. I mean, I've got an affiliate link and stuff like that, but also so you guys can see what I'm using. But not everything I use comes from Amazon. Like recently I've been really liking some of the supplies I got from St. Louis Art Supply. And they specialize in art supplies that are more rare and harder to find. So a lot of the things they have are not things that Amazon has. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this one I want to keep a little more simple, although I'm kind of feeling some of these circular, more moth type markings. I don't know. I do want to make these darker, so I'm going to keep this. I'm going to kind of make this ease into that. And then I'm going to darken that whole thing here. And I think that makes that look a little better. This is all going to be, you know, up to you and what you like. You might have different opinions than I do on what to add or what not to add, and that is totally fine. I try to explain everything I'm doing to the best that I can and why I'm doing it, but it doesn't mean that what I'm doing is the 100% right way to do anything. That is not at all what is happening here. All right, I think I'm going to try to mirror kind of the heaviness on the bottom of the wing on this one too, just to balance this. Okay. All right, so what I'm kind of wanting on this one, what do I want on this one? I don't know. You know what? I think I want to do some circles, but I'm also going to rim them. So I'm actually going to color a lot around this. So I'm going to put a big one, a small one, and a small one. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Oop, not quite as big as on the other side. That's okay. we're going with it. And then what I'm going to do is bring this up here, color all the way around. So that we're kind of getting the, you know, a real nice area around these. I am not using any sort of archival pen. You know, I've got, I do sell some stuff, and like a lot of the stuff that of my own art that I do, I use nicer supplies so they are more archival quality, but I've got kind of what might be kind of a controversial opinion on art and art supplies, in that, especially some of this stuff, like these I'm painting on postcard things, and you know, yours might be a true work of art, but the way that I'm probably going to use mine is I'm probably going to send them as a postcard, and they're meant to be more of a momentary piece of art. I don't think all art is permanent. I think some of it exists just to exist for a while. And so, like, I don't really care if the black ink fades on this. That doesn't really matter to me. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing I did before, where I'm going to kind of make this a little bit darker towards the body. And I don't know what else I want to do to that one. This one I think is a good one where I want to kind of like sit and think about it. Yeah, it does make it look hairy. I'm not huge, I was just thinking, I don't like it. I don't like it. Let's actually kind of, here, I'm going to make some different shapes. Because yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Not crazy about it. I'm going to color that in. And then I'm going to take some of that white, redefine the body area. Because that is, I mean, I guess some of their bodies are kind of hairy, especially if it's a moth, but that was not my goal. So we're going to adapt and change. There's a website where I can send posts. Oh, that's cool. This would probably work better if I had my gouache pen, but you know, I don't. You know, we could also come in here with, I've got some neon colored pencils. I've got a neon orange. I can also come in here, try to add some of that. Adding it onto that wax is not working super good, but I can get some of that color in there. Kind of change it a little bit. And outline it. These are subtle changes, but I like that. Somebody says, they always say, if you don't like it, it's not done yet. It does kind of look like a goat head. That's funny. This one, yeah, I think this one needs more work. I don't know what it is yet. So that might be one I sit on for a minute. I do like that one though. I think this one is done. So let's take I'm going to take the tape off of these so you can see, because we're at the end of our time today. And I have not had this paper, other than when I was like really trying to have it rip my paper, I have not had this tape rip my paper, which is nice, as long as I take it off at an angle. I did a test of this paper, and like you can see how aggressive I was taking it off. And it took a little bit, but like, I mean, I was trying. You could add detail with watercolor pencils on top, absolutely. I actually have some stuff coming up with watercolor markers soon, so stay tuned on that. You can add details with basically anything you want on top of these. Pens, markers, crayons, pencils. I mean, you could even do some, ooh, you know what this one maybe needs? I'm not going to do this right now, but I think it could use some like gold leaf. I might mess with that. All right, how'd everybody do? Tell me, let me know. I want to know in the comments. Did you have fun? How'd they turn out? Did they turn out better than you expected? The same? Cat hair details? Yeah, you absolutely could. This paper, so this is a supply I'm testing out to sell in my shop. It's postcard paper. They might already sell some similar stuff on Amazon. I know Strathmore makes pre-made, like some pre-made postcards and actual cards. Letting yours dry, yeah, that's a good idea. A little more challenging than expected. I can see that. They do, it is funny how paintings always look like a mess until they don't, you know? Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. We'll be back in about 2 weeks with another class. I do have something coming up on one of the weekends soon. I'll try to post a story or something if I have to change the schedule a bit, because I might need to change the day that we do our next class. I don't know yet though, so I'll try to keep you guys updated. Anyways, thank you so much, and I hope that everybody has a really nice day.